Okay, so you're diving into some serious lit, huh? Shooting an elephant, right?
Yeah, that's the one.
It's heavy stuff. But hey, we're here to help you really get under the skin of this story.
You bet. It's not just about an elephant, though.
Oh yeah, George Orwell, the guy who wrote it, he was, well, kind of a rebel.
Totally. A sharp mind always poking at those uncomfortable truths about society and power.
Exactly. And this story, this deep dive is going to unpack all that. How colonialism messes with people, the whole shebang.
It's amazing, honestly, how relevant this story still is.
Right. Like, even though it was written ages ago, it still hits hard.
Orwell had this knack, this way of making you question everything.
Yeah. So let's get into it, huh? Let's go to Burma, back in the day when it was under British rule.
Okay, set the scene for us.
So picture this. Our narrator, a British police officer.
Okay, got it.
He's just doing his job, but he's not really buying into the whole empire thing.
Right, he's kind of stuck in the middle, you know?
Totally. Anyway, he gets this call about an escaped elephant. Total chaos.
Yeah.
The elephant's rampaging through town. People are scared. The whole bit.
Classic Orwell, starting with something so dramatic.
But here's the thing. When the officer finally finds the elephant,
Yeah.
it's totally chill. Just munching on some grass, minding its own business.
Oh, so the danger's past?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
But here comes the dilemma, the big question mark.
What's that?
There's this crowd of Burmese people, right?
They're watching the whole thing go down.
Exactly. And they're expecting a show. They want to see the officer assert his authority, his power, the whole colonial dominance thing.
So there's pressure on him to act.
Immense pressure.
Yeah.
He knows he doesn't need to shoot the elephant, but
But he feels like he has to.
it's like he's stuck between a rock and a hard place. His conscience is saying one thing, but the expectations, the role he's supposed to play.
It's pushing him in the other direction.
Totally. And in the end, he caves. He shoots the elephant.
Wow.
It's brutal. Orwell doesn't hold back in describing the elephant's slow, agonizing death.
That's one of the things that makes this story so powerful, right?
Totally. But remember, this isn't just about a single animal.
Yeah, it's a symbol.
Exactly. It's like the elephant represents the Burmese people themselves, being crushed under the weight of this whole empire thing.
Like their suffering is mirrored in the elephant's death.
Right. Orwell is making this connection between the physical death of the elephant and the slow death of their culture, their freedom under British rule.
So that's the imperialism theme, right? The cruelty of colonialism.
Spot on. But here's the thing that I find really interesting.
What's that?
The officer, the one who pulls the trigger, he's a victim too in a way, isn't he?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Like he's trapped in this system.
He's forced to play a part.
Exactly.
And that's where Orwell really gets you thinking, right? He doesn't let anyone off the hook.
Yeah, it's like he's showing how even those in power can be corrupted by it.
It's this moral conflict. Like the officer knows it's wrong. He even hates what he's doing, but
he feels powerless to resist it.
he's afraid of what will happen if he doesn't play along.
Totally. Like, what would the Burmese people think? What would his superiors think?
He's worried about losing face, right?
Exactly. So he chooses appearances over his own conscience.
Which brings us to that other big theme, right?
Huh.
Appearance versus reality.
Right. Like how much of what we do is just putting on a show for others.
And that's so universal, right? It's not just about colonialism. It's about the masks we all wear in different situations.
Exactly. But going back to the story, I mean, one of the things that always gets me is
How what?
how simply Orwell writes. Like his language is so clear, so direct.
It's almost like he's a journalist just reporting the facts.
But those facts, man, they hit you right in the gut.
And that's why Shooting an Elephant is a classic. It's powerful because it's so straightforward, no fancy language, just raw emotion and these big, complex ideas.
So let's bring it back to our listener, the one who's going to be facing those exam questions.
Yeah, good point.
What should they really focus on to impress their examiner?
Well, first off, knowing those key themes we talked about is essential.
Imperialism, the moral conflict,
The pressure to conform, the whole appearance versus reality thing.
all of that.
But beyond the exam, I think what's really important is to think about how this story applies to, our lives today.
Yeah, like how are we all kind of like that officer sometimes?
Exactly. Making choices we're not proud of just to fit in or because we feel pressured.
Powerful stuff. It's like, even though this story is set in colonial Burma, it speaks to something really deep about human nature.
Totally.
Okay, so one last thought before we wrap this up. Imagine yourself in that officer's shoes. It's hot, you've got this rifle, you're surrounded by a crowd.
And the elephant's just standing there.
Yeah, just peacefully eating grass. What would you do? It's a tough question, right?
Mhm.
And that's the brilliance of Orwell. He makes you really think about it.
It's a question that stays with you long after you finish the story.
And who knows, maybe by thinking about it, we can learn something about ourselves,
About how we deal with pressure, how we make tough choices.
Maybe we can all avoid making the same mistakes as the officer.
Hopefully. That's the goal, right?
Right.
All right, well, that's a wrap on Shooting an Elephant.
Until next time.